2 of Reflections, a conversation with friends. How are you all doing? Go ahead and drop in the comments. Where are you from? Where are you listening from? Let us know that you are watching, and welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so glad to have you. So as you can tell right here, we are talking about modesty tonight. All right, let's talk modesty now. Sorry. This episode, this conversation is an hour long, so go ahead and share it now. Go ahead and tag your friend. Tell them to come on in and join the conversation so we can really talk about modesty. So I have some new friends this season, y'all. All right. Some you've seen before, but there's one that's brand new. So we are going to go ahead and add them into the conversation. We're going to get this conversation started off. All right. Let's see. Lafayette.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, welcome
Glad
back.
to be here. Another
Yes,
season.
season 2. Yes.
Yes.
So excited. All right. Hey, Monica.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited for season 2.
Yes, we are excited. I'm so glad to have you. All right. And then lastly, hey, Villar.
Hello, hello. How's everybody doing?
Welcome.
Good.
Yes, how are you? Yes.
Oh, you said
So we're
something?
excited.
Oh,
Yeah, I was saying,
sorry.
how are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good as well.
All right, so I'm definitely excited to have you guys on season 2 of Reflections, and we're starting off this season talking about modesty. But before, I don't know what happens to Lafayette, but he'll probably come back. But before we even get into the conversation, I want you guys to kind of give a little gist about who you are, a little summary, right quick.
I'll start. My name is Monica. I am a second grade teacher, a faith influencer. Feel free to add my Instagram. My handle is there. I also just really enjoy talking about Christ, talking about my experiences, some of the things that I've gone through, and how I have transitioned into the woman that I am today. And I just love and enjoy kids and helping people. So that's just a little bit about me.
All right, thank you, thank you. Villar.
Hello, my name is Ballard. Ain't nothing too spectacular about me. I'm a manager at FedEx Ground, and I just work, come home. I'm married, and I like playing video games and reading my Bible and praying.
Yes. Yes. All right, Lafayette.
Hey, guys. I'm Lafayette. I am the funny one. I am the realist. I am the one that likes to stir the pot. I am currently a graduate student at the University of Florida studying
Yes.
interior design. That's always fun. And I'm just glad to be here. Yep, I enjoy learning. There's never too much to learn. So I'm always happy to participate in these conversations and get some fresh perspectives that are different from mine.
Agreed. Yes, thank you guys. And y'all, it's Samantha. Y'all know me, okay?
Yeah, we go way,
So
way
let's get
back.
into it. Right, yes, me and Villar, listen, I need Villar for both of y'all. We listen,
Whoa.
Villar knows.
Man,
No, just
yeah.
high school, like, yes, we literally grew up in the church together, like, listen, came up together. And I'm so glad to see where he's at right now. All right, so we have an hour to talk about this conversation, talking about modesty. And from the previous season or the last season, y'all know I'm big on definition, and I want to know where everybody's head is at before we dive into the conversation. So I want to just get a definition, like a broad definition, like a quick summarized definition from you all about modesty. Like, what does that mean to you, or what is modesty? You can go first, Lafayette.
Modesty to me is intentionally making sure that everything is not about you and that attention, making sure that attention is not drawn to you for far beyond clothes in all aspects. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Monica.
I think that modesty is being selfless, humble, not necessarily trying to be forefront all the time, understanding who you are internally versus trying to show who you are in the extreme of trying to show that externally. So just being modest and humble. Oh, humble. Can't use the definition.
Cool. I don't know what kind of definition you want, whether it be towards behavior or in what you wear.
Anything.
But to me, those are some new definitions that I never heard of, so that was actually pretty cool. But to me, when I think of the word modesty, I think of the word. Well, I think of like dressing appropriately. You know what I'm saying? And of course, it starts from the inside out. So of course, it's an inward thing that actually transcends to the outward. So that's what I would say modesty is.
That's what you mentioned, Villar, same likewise. I posted on Instagram and I was just asking people's definition, and they were saying things like humble, and I was like, wow, y'all are adding to the definition, because we generally talk about it in the sense of like how we dress. Right. So even hearing about like the humbleness and the selfless and things like that is like, okay, y'all are adding to it. That I didn't, wouldn't necessarily had defined modest, but I feel like there's levels to it. Like y'all got, if you asked me what was modest like 5 years ago, I would have had a different definition. But I guess like with modest, I guess just things being done like moderation as well. Where it's like you're not doing too much, but you're not doing like the bare minimum as well. Like just like that minimal like in between. When it comes to like modesty and then like just the way it's dressed, usually we tend to hear like modesty, that term used like more in like the Christian aspect or like church and things like that. And so after, you guys kind of spit out your definitions, and usually the way we define things is based off like our experiences. So the question that I have is, what was your experience or real church? What was modesty like? Like, what was your exposure to modesty? Go ahead, Monica.
My exposure started in the church. Every time they talked about modesty, like you guys just mentioned, it was always about your clothes or what you wear. And you have to wear, if you're going to wear a skirt, make sure it's long enough, or make sure your cleavage isn't showing. So that's kind of how it was presented to me. So I kind of always grew up thinking like that. But then I started realizing that modesty is more so of a behavior. It's more so how you view yourself and how you respond, like Villar was just kind of mentioning, and how it kind of transcends from the inner to the outward appearance. And then I just kind of got the humble aspect, because the definition of humble means having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with what modesty is. You have to understand who you are, but also realizing that you're not better than or you're not greater than, and ultimately you're reverencing God in the midst of that. So I think my explanation just now kind of gave the basic definition of modesty and how it kind of transformed for me as I got older.
That's good. Lafayette.
I didn't really have too many experiences with it in church. I think it's a little different for men. It seems from my experience, it's always the women getting hit with the modesty thing. I think I remember one thing in particular. I'll never forget. There was a altar call service at the end of the service, and there was a lady who came up, and she had on a really short dress, and she had like slain under the spirit, and she went out. And I always remember, like, dang, like I never want to be that person. Like I go out, or I'm in the spirit, and my clothes come loose, or I'm just out of place. So that kind of made me at least start thinking about it. Like that stuck with me.
Okay. Villar.
My first encounter with modesty was actually an argument on social media. Because I used to be apostolic Pentecostal, a oneness Pentecostal, where they believe in the whole, they believe in a lot of crazy stuff. And but they believe in the whole, like you got to wear a dooley on your head, or I call it a rug. You got to wear like a long skirt. You got to go to church, like covered up, like you can't even show no skin. You know what I'm saying? I did not know that side of the doctrine on that side, but I guess, there was a lot of, different people saying stuff like, should a Christian wear a bathing suit, or it's not right to wear a bathing suit outside, and things of that sort. And this and that. So that was kind of my first introduction to modesty. And like, Lafayette said, the women do get hit the most, but I do see some preachers dragging them in about, the tight clothing and everything. So that's was my first introduction to that and everything. So.
Okay. Okay. I feel like growing up, I feel like my parents always, I don't know, like instilled modesty, where it's like to be modest, but also like I'm like petite. So I feel like I got a lot of like got away with a lot of things. And so like when I would hear about modesty, especially in the church, it was always like to like the, the thicker girls, like, oh, y'all can't be wearing masks too tight, whatever the case is. And I was like, well, that's not my story. So, I got away with a lot of things. But there was one time I was at church, y'all. And it was we went to the same church, but I was seated in like the front or whatever. I think we were like, I don't know, they had us on the like the pulpit. And literally like I'm thinking I'm all good, whatever. And I got a tap and it told me to go sit in the back. And I was like, what?
Who said that?
One of the ushers told me to go sit in the back. So I was like, I was like, okay. And then so I went in the back and I low-key felt some type of way and I just didn't understand why. And then later on it was told to me that my dress was too short. And I'm like, what? And mind you, I'm like, everybody's seen this when I came in, nobody said anything. But anyway, so that's when I was just like, okay. Then I watched what I was wearing or whatever, because nobody told me that, so I didn't know. But yeah, so I got away with a lot of things back in the day because I was just like, I'm slim, whatever, nobody's checking for me. But recently, talking about modesty and like my recent, like, though age, whatever, it was like this random man. I forgot, I think I was at Tropical Smoothie. And this man kept looking at me and I was like, oh my gosh, here goes the creep. Like, why he's staring at me? And I was like, let me get my stuff so I can go out. Get out of here. So he followed me out of the door. I was like, oh gosh, I wish I had pepper spray. Like, what's going on? And he literally was just like, he was like, no, I want to commend you. I could tell by the way you dress that you're like, modest and you're serious. And I was just like, what? And he was just like, I don't really see young women like that. I'm just trying to commend you. And that stuck with me. That was like, I think that was last year. And that really stuck with me. And I was like, wow, people really like, there's a difference. Like when you do like dress modest or when you show yourself in a certain way, like, or hold yourself in a certain way, people notice. So that was like my experience with modesty.
Dang.
Yeah. But it's, I guess that I can go into say, because Lafayette brought up that it wasn't really for men or whatever, it wasn't really a thing. Like it was always towards the women. So would y'all agree or disagree that there's a double standard when it comes to modesty?
I think it depends on who your leader is. Because some leaders will check men. I've seen that too, where it's like, hey, ain't nothing wrong with the skinny jeans, but some make sure things are covered properly, and so I have seen that, but not nearly as much. And even still, it's done a little differently. I feel like toward women, I've witnessed it as a very angry conversation, like a throwing off kind of conversation. Like, you look like this or you look like that. It's like, okay. So I would say that women do get it a lot harder than we do. But that does not take away the fact that the conversation still needs to be had for men. Because I've seen stuff too. It's just like, hey, like, dude, I know you saw that before you left the house. Like,
yeah.
I think it's a double standard as well. And it's the excuse of women have more to show off, so they need more guidelines and restrictions. You can even look at schools. If you look at the dress code in schools alone, you can kind of see the list of what women can't wear versus the list of what men can't wear. And it's like a huge discrepancy. So I just think that kind of contributes to it as well. So that's just kind of my take on that.
What do y'all mean by double standard?
Like, do they focus more? Do they focus more on women with it and not pay attention to it with men, or like, do you feel like one is judged more harsh? Yeah,
most definitely. Like they really pay attention because they pay attention to the woman with everything, with marriage, the way, like, there is so
never the
much
man's fault.
women conferences about how to be a wife and how to be a better wife and all this other stuff. And there's not a lot of resources for men. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot for women, for everything. So I do believe that, you know, there is a lot of hypocrisy because a lot of, and of course, women have more to show, you know, when it comes to like shape, and so many different other things. But I feel as if like, and then yet again, but what can we say about men too in regards to that? Because we don't really have much to show. But I do believe that there is something wrong where we are paying a lot of attention to women, and we're not really going after the men who do wear the suffocating jeans on and the suffocating suit and the extra small, you know, when you're actually like 300 pounds, but you're wearing like an extra tight suit and
I like
everything.
my slim fit suits, so
You know. But
I
then
know
yet
about
again,
that.
but then yet again, it's like this. Even if the man is like wearing an extra tight suit, you know, how is that trying to make somebody else stumble? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what can we find about a man that, you know, does that? You know, so I feel like we should cut down on, you know, in terms of like, for instance, there's some churches where a woman can't wear nails. She can't have no weave. You know what I'm saying? She's not allowed to shave. She's not allowed to do this. She's not allowed to do that. You can't wear a dress, you know, over your, you know, above your knees. So there's so much, but it's like, you know, what's wrong with nails? What's wrong with weave? What's wrong with wigs? What's wrong with all of that? You know, where did we get this from? And there has been a root in accordance to a doctrine that actually made this, that goes all the way back to Deuteronomy, that says, you know, a woman, she can't wear any, like, I guess a woman's not allowed to wear pants or anything like that.
men's clothing, yeah.
Yeah, I never see my mom wear pants, but she don't really parade that doctrine. But it's a culture thing. It's a lot that goes into that, but I'm not gonna say too much for right now. So yeah.
Yeah, you made a good point talking about like doctrines and stuff, because the church I grew up at, women couldn't wear pants. So I guess that was my first actually exposure to like modesty, because women couldn't wear pants, couldn't wear jewelry, earrings. So I didn't get my ears pierced till I was 14. But yeah, like that was so dead. Like if my mom was trying to keep me there, like they would really shun her for like piercing my ears. And her ears was pierced, but she wasn't at that church growing up. But for me to be growing up there, like that was all dead. Jewelry, I remember having like a little bracelet with my name on it. It was like a gold plated bracelet, and I think I got to a certain age and they literally looked at her like, no, like she's not a baby anymore, like you need to take that off. And so it was just like not really understanding, because my mom, she still chose, like, she's like, okay, I'm not gonna dress y'all in jeans or pants to go to church, but like outside of like church, y'all gonna still dress in jeans or pants. So I didn't get that hard strict, like, okay, you can't dress this and this unless it was at church, you know? But yeah, I never, why is it, I guess you mentioned that women have more to show, but even with like Monica's definition, Lafia's definition, talking about modesty, how modesty is like, you know, being humble and, you know, being selfish and things like that. I don't think they really talk about that in the church. Like, that's why when you guys even brought forth that definition, it was like, whoa, I never heard it that way, because it's always been about clothing. And that's why the woman was always talked to about modesty, but never about the men. And then, you know, those women who are so independent or feel like, you know, we're at the same level as men, just like, well, why do men never get talked to? And stuff like that in regards to double standard. But y'all watching, like, let us know how you feel about it. Erica says, I agree on the double standard. So let us know if you agree or disagree. Is that even a conversation? Because some people feel as though, like, women just need to take responsibility for the fact that we were built the way we were built, and we just gotta be careful what we wear, or, you know, be restricted.
It's like they wear a poncho or something like that. Like, listen, I seen this thing on Facebook, and it showed a woman, you know, she had a, you know, a shape and everything like that, and they were like, is this appropriate for school? And I'm sitting here like, listen, she probably work out, bless you, sir. She probably work out. She was probably born with the shape, because, you know, sometimes it's genetic. So it's like, you know, anything you wear, it's gonna show. So it's like, what can you do? You're not gonna wear a rain jacket or a poncho or whatever like that. There's nothing really you can do about it. So I believe people need to stop sexualizing that, because it should not be sexualized. Because at the end of the day, that's the body, you know what I'm saying? And there's nothing they can do about it. They should not be going to H&M and Target and Marshalls and like, okay, well, I don't want to make nobody to stumble. I know I got a good shape, so I'm just going to get a whole bunch of, dresses that are like extra large and this and that. Like, no, like,
But
if
and
that's
think about
the way
how
you
that.
look,
No, I'm
that should
sorry.
be what it is.
I said, think
That's
about how
my
that
thing.
affects how our women, our young women, look at their body, and how that affects their self-image and their self-esteem.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then for me, modesty has never been about clothing. I didn't grow up Pentecostal. I grew up Methodist, so it's not. Of course, you do dress appropriately, but it's not like so harsh as the apostolic or Pentecostal upbringings. But I've met people who wear suits, but they're prideful. They're mean. They are not
Mhm.
approachable. But you're modest. Nothing's showing. So it's like
Right.
you might as well have came in with a mini skirt because you're mean as a snake. Like,
For real.
so
I
I
think it
think
can
that we
easily.
should
Oh, go
definitely
ahead.
take a look on that. No, keep. I was just Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you got, but I was just saying it easily turns into like a control thing too. Like y'all were just saying, like women, we get the brunt of it. And I feel like that's to control us and to kind of like keep us into like this stigma of what we're supposed to look like, what we're supposed to be. And I think this new age of women, we're kind of transforming, not saying that we're no longer modest, but I think that we're kind of transforming the way of our way of thinking, because we are the generation of why. Everything is why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? We need more understanding. We need more clarification. So I feel like that alone gets us to really question the fact, well, why do they have to wear skirts? Why do they have, like, did God really care about a skirt that much to where you would be shunned from the church if you decide to wear pants? Like, I don't believe that's the case. I think he really just wanted it to be more so of an aspect of less of you and more of me. How am I getting the glory out of it all? So I think that that's how the church should kind of approach it versus you can't wear this, you can't wear that, you can't wear this. Because again, it does go to that control aspect. Even from when I was a child, we could not wear red nails or any red lipstick. Even the women wouldn't wear red lipstick because it was just not, and it wasn't modest. It wasn't what God wanted. It was bringing too much attention to you. So I just think that that doesn't necessarily make sense. And I think the conversation should now stem away from what you shouldn't be wearing to let's talk about self-worth. Let's talk about who you are. Let's talk about what are your attributes? Who did God create you to be? How did you become who you are? And I think from there, you will start thinking and being more self-conscious about, well, how am I presenting myself? Am I presenting myself in the regard of who I am and who I know that I am, versus just because they told me I can't wear pants, I'm not going to wear pants. I don't think that's helping anything, and I don't think that's beneficial.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
that's a
would
good
say just
point.
another thing. One thing that I use, I used to lead worship back in Tampa, and I have to stand before people, right? And anytime before I left the house, I looked in the mirror and I said, you check everything. And if you got the question even a little bit, is this too tight? Is this too revealing? Is this too, like, is this pattern too much? Take it off. If you even have the question, just take it
Yeah.
off. If you use that rule of thumb, you will never have an issue. Even the slightest question, like just take it off, put on something else until you find something that is appropriate. It's simple. And I think that's the whole discussion on modesty with clothing. And also, I think it's important to note, and Villard said it, modesty is cultural. Modesty is based on conviction. So what Samantha or Monica has on to an Islamic woman is very immodest. Y'all look like
Mhm.
you look like you look.
You didn't want to.
And you know what me or Villard may have on may be completely inappropriate to
Oh, they
someone
was
else's
for
culture.
this in church,
So,
boy. I tell you.
I'm growing locks. Somebody would say I'm a Rastafarian. Somebody. Everything is cultural. So I think it's very important that we note that modesty is all about conviction. If you don't feel bad
Mhm.
wear your mini skirt, you wear it until the spirit convicts you. Period.
But
That's
this is the thing about the locks part. I was a youth pastor at a church for like about 2 years, at a Haitian church at that.
You wasn't
Um,
having no locks.
no, listen, I grew out my locks and I seen that there was a change in my leadership role. And, my old pastor, he brought me into the office and he was telling me how I can't preach anymore because my hair and because, the way the Haitian people will see me and everything like that. So, because Haitian people, when they see dreadlocks, they think you a vagabond or they think you bad or
Mhm.
they think you a stealer and everything. And I hate the way that is actually a thought, because it's like that's you can't portray somebody like that. Just because they have dreadlocks does not mean that they're a bad person. That's stereotyping. But yeah, I was not allowed to preach at all or anything because I had dreads, and I had to make a soul decision. I was like, you know what? Am I really gonna let this stop me from, you know, doing what God called me to do? So I just cut it. You know what I'm saying? I just cut it, but I later soon left because, you know, that's.
See, I would have been the complete opposite.
Exactly. But then yet again, to piggyback what Monica said, the thing is with women, it all started back in the Bible. Because honestly, when we can really say this, back in the Bible, they did not even have jeans on. You know what I'm saying? They didn't even have jeans. That's something that was made like in the 19 something. I forgot. But jeans were not even a thing back then. You know what I'm saying? They had to literally make clothes from like scratch, you know. The first clothing was actually leaves because Adam and Eve was naked at the time, you know.
Right.
But even all the way back in the Bible, I was studying the cult because, you know, studying the Bible Hebraically really helps a lot in understanding what the Word of God is really saying. So when I began to study the Word, I seen how it says that women were not even allowed to learn the Torah. They were not allowed to, you know, teach, and they were not even allowed to have an education. They were only allowed to stay at home, be stay-at-home wives, cook, clean, and all this other stuff, but they were not allowed to have an education. So from then on to, and then you got to really think, even though that was allowed, does that make it right? You know what I'm saying? So from then on, that's how we have that little thing where, you know, we have to get on the woman about everything. Like, we belittle women so much, but we have to understand that men were the only ones created in the dirt, but women were not created in the dirt. They were created from a man's side, meaning that she's not supposed to be stepped on or trampled on, but she's just as equal as the man. You know what I'm saying? So I believe that it's been a lot of stuff with the woman, and you know, there needs to be a revival in it. Like, there needs to be a discussion about it. So
yeah, and I love how Lexus in the chat, she was just saying how God ate with prostitutes and other sinners, and he didn't want to say anything about their clothing. And I think that's important to kind of keep in mind, especially from like a Christian perspective or just spiritual perspective in general, because God did not come from that approach of, oh, you have this on, so you are not worthy or you are not valuable. He knew that everybody had some type of worth, and he knew that he wanted to reach the people that other people would not go to because of how they appear to be. So I think that's important as well from the church. Even if somebody is not dressing modest, that's when you lean in a little bit closer, not push them away. That just means that they need you a little bit more. They need that grace a little bit more. They need that conversation a little bit more. So I think that's kind of where we need to shift in the church and just in our perspectives in general. We can't just continue to make assumptions and judge people based off of the way that they appear externally, because there's some good traits probably internally that they haven't even rectified or realized on the inside of them. And that's why it's not appearing outside of them. So we can't just give up on people and just cast them away, because God would never do that. Jesus never did that. So we just got to keep that in mind.
Right. You made a good point. I had 2 points from what Monica was saying earlier about, you know, things like, you know, shunning people away because they are wearing, like, yeah, when I was growing up, red nail polish, red lipstick, that was a no. Like, don't even think about it. Don't even look at the red lipstick, like none of that. And so what happened is a lot of times, especially like with weave or perms and all this stuff, what happened, a lot of the women or the young girls, young adults, like, they like were being rebellious. Like, they were just like, well, I guess I'm not going to go to church anymore. You know what I mean? They got curious because why can't we not wear this? And nobody could give a real answer as to why it wasn't modest, or, you know, it was of the devil. And so they became very rebellious, right? And so they felt like, well, if God doesn't like this, then I guess I'm rebelling against God, right? And it became, they didn't see it as it was a church versus them. They saw it as God versus them, because the church was representing God. So people became very rebellious when, you know, all these things, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. And then the second one, we were talking about, you know, focusing the conversation on our worth. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Focusing the conversation on our worth, our self-worth, definitely helps, because that definitely helped me, because then it becomes more so of, okay, I understand who I am. I understand, you know, who my father is. I understand that I'm royal. right? And royal people, they dress a certain way, or they hold themselves a certain way, right? So now it's more so it's something I'm willing to do because I understand who I am and who I'm called to be, more so than these are rules. You can't do this, you can't do that. I don't even know why. You know, so knowing the why for sure definitely helps. And a lot of people ask that because people say all the time that women should be modest, and they like, why? Like, why can't I wear this? Why can't I wear that? You know what I mean? And how come this person is a Christian and they wear that, but this person over Christian over here and says that's sin? So like, what's the truth?
Right. And when it comes to that, it's like, so say for instance, like a Christian comes in, because we shouldn't hold unbelievers to that standard, you know, when it comes to dressing modest, because what's the point? You know what I'm saying? Like, their hearts are not regenerate. That's like trying to cast out a demon out of a sinner for them to go back to the same thing that they're about to go back to. You know what I'm saying? But when a believer comes in, right, and comes into the church and everything like that, she's wearing booty shorts and all this other stuff, a crop top. We know that's wrong. You know what I'm saying? We know that's wrong. But who's to say that that's the only thing in her closet? You know what I'm saying? Who's to say that's the only thing in her closet? And then yet again, you got to understand that with each level of maturity that you grow into, everything else changes about your life in terms of behavior, mindsets, and even your closet. Because you also have to understand this too, that that the Holy Spirit doesn't just want our life and our lips and our hearts, but he also wants our closet. So I've seen a lot of people where, of course, you know, certain things that they wear change. And it's not so much where they're wearing long skirts now. No, they're not doing that. There are some clothes that actually are revealing. You know what I'm saying? There are some clothes and ways that are actually revealing and everything. But as you mature in Christ, and as you mature and as you grow in sanctification, some of those things change. You know what I'm saying? You get a distaste for certain things. It's not because it's sin, but it's more so of, you know, I'm growing. And as you grow, you know, of course, you know, as you were a little child, you thought like a child, but now as you're grown up, you know what I'm saying, you put away childish things. So that's how it is. So it's a process with things, you know, when people go through that stuff. So yeah.
No, for sure, definitely. And I guess talking about, I'm not sure if someone mentioned that in the definition, but like even like the heart posture, and Lafayette was saying how, I mean, you can be dressed, you are modest and stuff, but where's your heart? Like, your heart is wicked. So like, what does it even matter at the end of the day, what you have externally, right? And that's just so true. Like, you know, I feel like a lot of people, and I kind of got like that a little bit, and I had to rebuke that and be like humble minded. But sometimes when people get to the stage where they feel like they're doing everything right, then they start thinking about it's the works, like, oh, I'm dressing modest, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and they start putting themselves higher than others, or looking at themselves higher than others, like, oh, she ain't dressing modest, you know what I mean? And so it starts becoming like a comparative thing, like, oh, they say they're Christian, look what she got on, you know what I mean? And it's not even nothing about the heart, because it's just like, well, you can't see the spirit in me. Like, I say all the time, I'm just like, people look down or they say things that is just out of whack, and I'm just like, but you're a woman of God. You don't sense the spirit in me to like know, like, you know. But definitely, I think a heart posture, I think that's talked about a lot. Enough when it comes to modesty, for sure. It's just like, where's your heart? Because and especially conviction as well. And I've had like these conversations with God. You know, God brought me through different seasons of my life where I had that I was rebellious, and I was like, I don't really care for nothing anymore, whatever. And then God really humbled me. Like, he stripped me away of things, from the way I started dressing. I stopped wearing makeup for like a whole year, like all these things. And it wasn't nothing like, I didn't look at someone else who's wearing makeup like, oh, you're sinning. I knew that I knew God told me to, you know what I mean? Like, I knew that was my conviction in that season. So I couldn't look to other people. And that's another conversation, because sometimes people will take their own convictions and put on someone else, and they call them sin, or call that they're not living for God or living for Christ, right, or whatever, because of their own convictions. Like, I couldn't look at somebody wearing makeup and say, oh, you're not living for Jesus, right? You're not hearing God. You're not hearing the Holy Spirit. That was my conviction. And just like what you're saying with the whole sanctification, and God just had to like strip me of that. And he put me on a place where it was just like, I can be confident not having to wear these things, not having to have on makeup, not having to have on weaves and things like that. And I was just like, whoa. And God finally said, okay, you can go back to wearing it. I was just like, whoa, like that was a whole lesson. And I was just like, I honestly didn't even realize or think that I could be confident without these things. Like, I was just like, I was really just talking and stuff like that in people's face with no makeup or whatever. And God had to show me that it was an inside thing and not an external thing. And so now when I can wear these things, now when I can enjoy these things, it's not more so for, oh, I'm finding my confidence in this. It's just like a jewelry or something like that. It's just a compliment to the look. But yeah, definitely convictions, that whole sanctification process, and just really allowing the Holy Spirit, like you said, allowing God into your closet. I think that's very important. People don't realize that. They don't tie in God to that. They don't think God cares about that, and He does.
He's personal. He's very personal. He cares about what
Yeah.
he can, like, actually, he actually convicted my wife from eating Haagen-Dazs ice cream.
Mm.
And so, yeah, ice cream. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, God, what's wrong with ice cream? You know what I'm saying? But that's the thing. As you grow in relationship, you'll find out that God is not just a God that just cares about ministry and, you know, hey, prophesy to this person, prophesy to that person. You'll begin to see that He is very personal. The Holy Spirit is very personal. Because like I said, He doesn't just want your closet. He doesn't just want your heart. He wants everything. You know, so if He wants everything, He wants your diet. He wants the clothes you wear. And it may be different for everybody because He knows you. You know what I'm saying? He wants everything, your academics, your education. So, you know, when she got convicted of that, it was based on relationship. I could eat it. He never told me that, so I'm gonna keep eating my ice cream. You know what I'm saying? But it does come up to where, you know, it is sometimes, you know, it's like, okay, you know, God may convict you of that, but that doesn't mean that it's for me. And we come in danger zones when we begin to teach based on our personal convictions or our personal history. You know, certain things are just you and God, because God knows you. And I don't even know why that is going on for 638. It's an even number. It's not a whole number. But yeah, so that's just the way it is. You know what I'm saying? So I do believe that like I said, God is very personal, and you know, he cares about the little things. So.
No, yeah,
I agree. I definitely agree. And I think I'm glad that we're taking modesty out of the context of clothes, because like you said, it's in every aspect. Modesty is a mindset. And I think that's kind of what I constantly go back to, because some people, well, I'll talk about myself because that's the only person that I can truly talk about. But there was a time where God was also speaking to me and telling me to be more modest on my social media. Some of the things that I was posting wasn't really a true representation of who I was. So I was just kind of just posting things out, trying to appear to be this person that was, you know, got it all together, that's happy, that's full of life. When in reality, I had none of that going on in the inside. So God was like, I need you to stop that, because what I'm trying to transition you to is a more transparent approach. And I can't do that until you begin to realize who you are. And that took a modest approach. I had to really have that mindset to step back and say, all right, it's not about the people I'm trying to please. It's about God I'm trying to please. He needs to get the glory out of this. So as He started showing me who I was and who I am, my whole social media is different now. Some people may say, well, she used to be this and she used to be that, and now she's this. But what they fail to realize is that there was a whole transition there. Beforehand, when I did not necessarily know who I was presenting myself to be the true representation of who I felt like I was, you know, just out there exposed, you know, bathing suits on. And there's nothing wrong with having a bathing suit on social media, but that was not who I really am. You understand what I'm saying? Like now, as I've really found myself, I'm not even that type of person anymore to even want to reveal myself in that way, because I don't feel like everybody needs to see that side. So I just think that it's important that we keep that as a mindset. And when God does convict us in regard to sweets or in regard to the way that we're exposing ourselves externally in any form or fashion, we got to really analyze that and make sure, is that a true representation of who I am and who God has called me to be?
Exactly. Yep. And I think that people are having that conversation, but at the same time, I don't like that conversation is being had for people to think about that, like, oh, okay, let me think about that when it comes to what I post, when it comes to how I'm dressing, when it comes to how I'm speaking. And it was just like so crazy to me how I remember growing up, and it was like the girls that I would look to that just seemed like they had it all right, like they wear long skirts. I'm like, wow, they're just so pure and so holy. And like they're the ones who end up like having a child out of wedlock and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, so that doesn't help.
With that long skirt.
You know? Yeah, so it's just like, well, what's the truth? What's the truth going on? what's going on? So as a child, I was just
Yeah.
confused. 'Cause I'm just like, well, they don't wear. I never seen them wear pants. Like they're wearing pants seem like a sin. You know, they never had their nails done or anything like that. But yet here they go and they got put in there. So what's going on?
And what they did was they conformed and complied versus changed their internal. So therefore, no matter what they were showing externally, their internal wasn't replicated, wasn't matching what they were exposing outwardly. So that's the problem. That's the point right there.
Yeah. And so like even for me right now, even like we were talking about like someone coming in the church, like got some short shorts or whatever the case is. Like before, if I would have seen that, I would start judging. But now I want to tell you even judge because that person's heart could be so pure. Like, and I've literally talked to people. I'm like, wow, like, do you know what's inside of you? And mind you, like, they're probably like showing, like, so, revealing or whatever. But that doesn't even faze me because it's like, what's in their heart for real? Like, what can I draw out of you for real? Who cares about what you got on? Like, that can change later. Like, talking about the heart posture, that stuff can change. And I know a lot of times, I think even on Tyra's live, they were talking about that. But how like even like the people in the church, like somebody will come in and they're already looking to see like and shaking their head. It's like, weren't you in the spirit? Like, what are you doing? Like, why did that move you so much?
I think even back to when God created Adam and Eve, if clothes were so important to him, he would have brought them into this world in clothes. They were brought in naked, bare. So that shows me right there that was not his concern. You know, he wasn't concerned with their obedience. He was concerned with, what are you going to do in this garden? What are you going to do with the resources that I have given you? He wasn't concerned about what they were wearing. He said, all I need you to do is not eat from that tree of knowledge. You can thrive in here. And I think we begin to, as humans, as flesh, we begin to start prioritizing what we need to focus on. So modesty, if you're not modest, then you're not right. If you're not this, then you're not right. Then you can't do this and you're not capable. And that's the issue. That's the problem. That's not true. Just because I'm dressed like this, that could just be from my home training. Maybe I've never just been trained like that. That doesn't mean that's a true representation of who I am. So that's another thing. We got to make sure that we're not, God didn't care about that.
I'm
a big person for if you are going to address someone about their clothing or something that is physical, something that can be changed, be willing to help them to make the change. So I'm not going to say anything to you about what you have on if I don't have $100 to give you to say, hey, go to so-and-so and pick you up some clothes, you know, because some people want to dress better, but they don't have the resources to do it, like y'all were saying. So it's like, either you're going to be there to help or you need to keep your mouth shut. It's that simple for me. I don't have much else to say.
But this is another thing, too, that Monica was saying. First of all, God ain't even intended us to wear clothes in the first place. The reason why we wear clothes is because we fell in sin. That's it.
Right.
Clothes is basically a reminder of God covering up our nakedness in the garden. You know what I'm saying? The first thing that God did with Adam and Eve, when Adam and Eve sinned, was put them was cover their bodies, was cover their nakedness. That's the first thing. Because if it wasn't for that, we would have all been naked.
Yep.
And it would have been no shame or nothing. You know what I'm saying? So he never even intended us to even have clothes on. You know, now it's like, you know, don't do it because, you know, But, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was never even his intentions. The reason why we're wearing clothes now is because they fell into sin.
Yep.
No, that's true.
And I think, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I know what I've seen, and I have some family and close friends who came up more Pentecostal apostolic doctrine, and they didn't talk about any accomplishments. It's just a very drab life, and it's like God didn't call us. Like, modesty does not mean that you can't have fun or that you can't do anything. Like, I know families that literally go to church all the time, never any family vacation, no pictures outside of church or anything, but y'all are modest. And it's like, you're literally letting your life pass away thinking you're modest, and you're literally just passing away. Like, what are you doing? You know, like, it's okay to have nice things. It's okay to wear nice things. If you want to buy your pair of red bottoms, you go do it if you got it like that, And that doesn't mean that you're immodest, It's all about, hey, do I have the right heart about what I'm doing? Period.
Yes.
It's, that's all it is. And we keep reiterating that for sure. But, it's just like, if your heart is pure, everything else does not matter. Now, of course, you don't come in a two-piece to preach the word of the Lord. But you know what? If you want to wear you a nice pant set or a nice skirt or a church suit, you do that if your heart is pure. And I just hate that people feel the need to have to make all these drastic changes to appear of being something and nothing to do with the heart at all. So, like,
and I think,
oh, go ahead.
It's just one quick thing. I think we got to ask ourselves, who are we trying to please? I think that's the simple question. Are you trying to please God, or are you trying to please people? And that's going to lead you to your answer.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Villa.
The Bible says.
Come with the Bible.
Because I don't know. But the Bible says in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 3, he says, do not let your adornment be merely outward, arranging the hair, wearing gold, or putting on fine apparel. Rather, let it be the hidden persons of the heart with the incorruptible beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is very precious in the sight of God. So he said, don't let your adornment be merely outward. He was not saying just don't have no outward adornment, because the word merely means only or simply or entirely or just. So meaning that he says, don't let it just be outward. Okay. He's not saying you can't wear gold or put on fine apparel, all this other stuff. So he's saying, listen, you can do that, but don't let that be the only thing that is outward. But I want the gentle and the quiet spirit that is incorruptible, that is very precious in the sight of God. So really, modesty is this: a gentle and quiet spirit. And you guys, the definition when you talked about when you talk about being humble, having humility, all of that stuff is what is precious in the sight of God. So that's the main thing. But people, they take all that, well, you can't wear this, you can't wear that. But it said, don't let it only be that. You know what I'm saying? But also, you can have that, but also a gentle and quiet spirit, which is very precious in the sight of God.
I just love the way you broke that down. I think we need to replay that back in churches because you don't get that rendition. You don't hear it like that. The other side of that. Don't wear jewelry. Don't wear this. Don't wear that. But that's what God truly meant. What is the heart showing? Like Sam was saying, what is your heart presenting? Is it a true I keep going back to representation, but that's what it is. And when you were talking about what the definition of modesty was to me, the reason why I didn't talk about clothes or anything like that is because I know that's not what God really intended. That wasn't really his sole purpose of putting that into his word. He wanted it to be more so, I want that gentle heart. I want that gentle spirit. I want to be able to come in and work on you. I want to be able to teach you. I want to be able to mold you into who I called you to be. And the only way I'm going to be able to do that is through a modest approach. You have to be less of you, less of me, and more of God. And I think that's where he was going with that. Great explanation.
Right.
Because the thing is, it's like God says, be holy for I am holy. A lot of people equate, clothes to holiness, and holiness is really a heart thing. You know what I'm saying? God is not saying be holy, wear this long dress, for I am holy. I'm wearing a long dress. He's not saying that. You know what I'm saying? So, and we have to understand, God is a spirit. So do we really think that God actually has physical clothes on if he's a spirit being? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people, like I said, they equate it to holiness. They equate it to righteousness. And I believe that's work, because you can't work your way to heaven. You can't earn holiness. Holiness is something, literally, it's God's righteousness imputed in you. It's not your righteousness, because our righteousness is as a filthy rags. So we can't sit here and say that I'm more holier than you because my dress, is like a wedding dress that trails on the floor. And and I have my natural hair out, and my fingernails look like I've been biting on them. I don't have no nails or anything like that. So I'm still sorry, but it's just the truth, because people think that that's evil and devilish, but that's evil. But yeah.
No, but for real, that literally is so true. Yeah, literally. But yeah, when you were just saying like that. And then cause like we're talking about, Monica was just saying that how it's like a controlling thing, because they're not gonna say that. They're not gonna say merely or just They're like, oh no, you can't wear it. You can't. what? And that's how they interpret the scripture, and that's how they teach it to the flock, right? And so we're going out, and now here are some churches are saying, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. Somebody's doing it, saying whatever the case is. Now this person who goes to this church looking at this person who may go to a church that is not like that, and like, they over there, they teaching false doctrine, or or whatever, looking down on them. Why? Because of a shift in you over here. Y'all said y'all can't wear red lipstick, and we're wearing red lipstick, so now we're the devil. Now we're devil worshippers. It's crazy. That's so crazy.
And let's be real about it. We talk about the different religions, right? Let's talk about it. God, you think God's going to say, oh, you know what? Monica was a Christian and she did not dress with skirts every time she went to church, or just in general, so she's not going to make it to heaven. I don't care that she was advocating. I don't care that she was speaking the gospel. I don't care that she was praying every day to me. I don't care that we had a relationship. I'm just going to go ahead and cast her out because of what she was wearing. God would never do that. He would never do that. So that's just so interesting to me that the conversations even come, oh, well, y'all do that over there in y'all religion, and that's not of God. That's not of God. It's like, well, what your preference is. I think it goes back to preference too. Like that's just why the culture thing is a big thing. You can't judge based on what somebody else is doing. That's preference. That's culture. That's how we are raised. That's what we grow up in. I grew up in a Christian church, so I don't know nothing else. Not saying that I haven't done my own research, but in regard to me being submerged in something else, I haven't. So that's why I can't be like, oh, you're wrong, and I don't expect somebody to say that I'm wrong. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that I feel like churches, if it's more so, which I can understand, like if I come to your church or your churches and you guys stand on, women shouldn't wear pants or whatever the case is, okay, I'll comply. I'll come in my skirt, whatever the case is. But I think an issue when they say these things and they call it a sin, right? Why don't you tell your members or tell the flock, whatever, these are expectations, because this is the culture of this house. You know what I mean? Because every house has a different culture, and that I can understand. I feel like then when the people there, they can be like, okay, this is how it goes. Not that this is the way God wanted it to be. Not that this is the way biblically it's supposed to be, but this is the way this church, this is their culture. You know what I mean? I feel like that would be like, okay, that would give someone an opportunity to be like, okay, cool, I'll comply when I come here, whatever the case, but that doesn't mean that's how it's supposed to be. So I'm not gonna look down on my sister over here because she's wearing pants, and you know what I mean? Like, because I understand it's just the different cultures. And yeah, but it's still the same kingdom. It's just the different cultures of the church, which makes sense, which is I'm okay with that, whatever. Like, but it's just like when you sit there and call it a sin, that's when I have an issue with it. Like, what?
But there's actually churches that extend so far out to the point where they're like literally control your social life outside of church, saying you cannot wear this outside of church. Now I understand, listen, every house has rules, and it's not that it's evil or it's unbiblical or anything like that.
Yeah.
But God has placed, pastors and apostles and prophets, whoever, shepherds of church on authority. So whatever they do, God's going to back up as long as it's, reasonable. So if God, so if they say, these are the rules of the house, okay, that's fine. Y'all can wear whatever y'all want outside, but this is just the rule of the house. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if they sit here saying, yo, you can't wear this outside, I don't want to see you at no beach. You know what I'm saying? If I find out, you're excommunicated from the church, and that's where it gets all witchy and,
Yeah.
So stay away from those churches like that, because Sister Keisha sees you get your hair done, you know what I'm saying, that's a done deal.
They putting you down. You got to sit in the back of the church now. So let's talk about that. Christians are going to the beach, because growing up, that was just such a weird thing, and I just avoided it. I was just like, you're just not gonna find me at the beach, because this is just too much. But because of the whole, well, what do you wear? What? So, how do y'all feel about that? Talking about modesty. So these types of events, is there certain places or situations where some things can slide because it's situational, and this because of this circumstance or this place, or what?
I think it all depends again on personal conviction, because for me, when I go to a pool party, to a beach, I'm probably going to keep my shirt on. That doesn't mean that Villard is going to keep his on, or that he's wrong for doing so. So, I may wear a Speedo, he may wear long pants to get in the pool. Who knows? Again, I think it all depends. I really do think it depends on that personal conviction. Like for me, I'm a little more traditional in my dress code because that's how I like to dress, not because that's how anybody told me to dress. So style, preference, conviction, it all goes back to that for me.
I'm with Tyra in the chat.
Tyra says, one thing about me, I'm gonna wear my 2-piece at the beach. We know that, Tyra. We know.
I mean, I used to fall into the one. It's nothing wrong with a one piece. They got some cute ones out there, but I used to fall into it like you have to wear a one piece if you go to the beach, like, and it has to cover everything, and you have to have a cover up, and you have to have. Listen, at that point, I'm hot, so I do not abide by that all the time. But even when I do go out, like it's like I'm still gonna kind of, just because it's like a personal thing now.
Yeah.
Right. I forgot the question. I'm so sorry. Y'all ask the question again. I forgot.
So the question was just basically when it comes to like, going to the beach, going to the pool, is there a different standard or expectation for Christians who are supposed to be dressing modest? Like, is it situational? Can we slide at the beach? Like, what's your take on that?
Listen, if you're a female, wear your little 2-piece and your little 1-piece. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no way you should be wearing a dress to the beach.
A jean skirt.
If you're a man, take your shirt off. That should not be sexual.
Oh God.
Now, but there are some times where I grew up knowing that, listen, you got to wear a suit to any interview you go to. Like, you got to dress nice. You know what I'm saying? You got to dress nice. If we were meeting up with the president, we ain't gonna wear nothing crazy. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing for the house of God. Like, let's come presentable. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because we want to show that respect. Even some unbelievers, they know what to wear, because it's like, we're going to the house of God. Like, we shouldn't treat this thing casually. Because if it was the president of the United States or even Donald Trump, you know what I'm saying, we would dress up. You know what I'm saying? We put on like the best, because that's like the highest authority in America right now.
Yeah.
And so it should be the same thing for God. Like, we should come and, you ain't got to wear like a suit and tie or a sequin suit or anything like that. But just, come,
Not the sequins.
Yes.
No, but that's so funny, because thinking about like especially like, because y'all know I'm Haitian or whatever. And I would literally, like, when you said about the suit, I literally think like these Haitian men, they would literally come to every event, no matter where it is. They would have their suit on. They would have their suit on.
Everything with a suit. Night service, they probably wear the suit too. Everything.
Right. Come to a picnic.
Oh, Easter?
Come to a picnic.
Let me get it.
Hey, Tamara says, I believe some people try to put their personal convictions on others. I may be comfortable with a one piece, another person may not. Exactly.
That's right.
Jasmine says, honestly, just wear what you want. Hey, Jazz. Y'all know what's so funny? Because I think I was at that season, like that weird season, and I had wore like this long dress to the beach, y'all. And I was like, whatever, I don't care what nobody has to say, right? But when I tell you, I really had to keep like tying it up, like all the way. And I was like, at this point, I should just wear a regular bathing suit. I'm over here playing with people.
But then when you go to like youth group, when you go in like a church event, the pastor's there, you're like, you know what? I ain't gonna let my pastor see all my goodies. Let me just wear, like a.
But what's the difference though? What's the difference?
What's the difference?
Why is the pastor looking at you in that way, especially if he?
You know what? You're right. You're right. Free ball. Whatever you want.
I was thinking about that because usually it's like, okay, if we're going to church, then all right, wear a one piece and wear a cover up or whatever. But then I thought about it. I'm like, but what if I went to the beach and I had a 2-piece on and I saw you at the beach? What do I do then? Like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, is it because of
that water park? But what about when we went to that water park? And Sister Bridget, she said you can't wear this, you can't wear that. I remember that. I forgot what she said we can't wear, but there was some restrictions when we went to that water park.
There was.
Yeah, there was.
But y'all were y'all children then?
We were teenagers. Yeah, we were like
children. I can understand that with children, but I don't think for adults there should be any crazy restrictions. Like kids are kids.
They're like,
Kids
no,
will,
they're
There are
for
some
adults
kids
kids
under
that
will
want
16.
be
to, though.
kids. You know, kids get ideas. At least I was that. You know, you get ideas and stuff. You know, like cover it
Right.
up, cover everything up. Y'all are children. Like we're the adults. We're gonna make sure that y'all are covered up. Period. You know, I see kids very differently. Like kids,
Right.
you listen to what is told of you. That's real old school. But you listen to what is told of you, and just know that people are doing that for your good. Like
Right.
put on a one piece.
Yeah. Lexa says, I also think that location has a big part in what you're allowed to wear and do. For example, down in churches are more lenient because of how hot it is.
Oh heck
Yeah,
yeah.
they've been some lenient
Them
churches.
electricians
Are
have it.
jobs and clothes being controlled if they set a dress code? I guess that's a question somebody
They're
want to throw out
they're trying to control the atmosphere of how people come in. So pretty much, but
there.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Some places
Yeah,
need guidelines. I mean, some people don't,
yeah.
like you said, home training. You may not know, so you may have to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, in this building we don't wear tank tops, or we don't wear this, or we don't wear that. So I mean, I can see it,
Yeah,
but it's not like
yeah.
controlling them outside of work. So
Yeah,
Right,
but then
right.
again, when we go to church, it's like when they say you can't wear this, you can't wear that, we see that as bondage. But it's only bondage if they're like trying to control your personal life and saying that this is demonized. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, at work, they have different, guidelines of what you could wear and everything, because that's a workplace. But we don't see it as that the same way we see it in the church, though. So that's another thing
You know
too.
what I say about churches who do wear their doilies and wear, the long skirts, no cleavage, all of that good stuff. If that's your style and that's how you reverence God, I'm for it. And I will say that I have been to apostolic churches that wear the doilies, and you can feel
Mhm.
the reverence of God for God that a lot of them have. And even though they
Mm-hmm.
may look funny, I can appreciate that they have some type of standard
Yeah,
of how
Mm-hmm.
they come before God. Whereas I
right.
went to
Right.
some other churches where we got on ripped jeans, nothing wrong with it. Ripped jeans, your hats, your caps, everything hanging out. And I'm like, dang, I should have went to the beach today instead of church. I don't even feel like I've been to church today. Like, so I just say don't knock it. I don't always understand it. None of us always do, but I'm just all about don't knock it until you've been in it, because somebody may have got delivered by that doctor, even though it sounds crazy. That may have been their way out for them, even though it seems crazy to us. So I just try to be very careful
Mm-hmm.
about being like, oh, that's crazy, that's off. Like, it just ain't for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I feel like some people, especially like new believers, or I feel like they need that sometimes. Like they need like, okay, because sometimes, like when people question, like, okay, well, what can I can't do? What can I can do? Because they're not there in their relationship with God yet to kind of discern the spirit. So sometimes like that leader that's just like, all right, this, that's needed for them. You know what I mean? So I don't knock it. Like that person may need that. They need that extra accountability. So yeah, so I mean that's what I'm saying. Like, but let them know. Like, let the flock know, let the church know, okay, this is just the expectation in this house. And that's cool. I remember my old church in Tampa, like the pastor was just like, look, we don't really restrict y'all on what, because we want y'all to just be able to come. We don't want y'all to have an excuse. Y'all can't come to church because y'all ain't have something to wear. But at the same time, like, don't come in here looking like, don't come in here funny looking or whatever, thinking it's like this is the beach. This ain't the beach, this is the house of God. You know what I mean? So like there's freedom in that sense, but at the same time, use your wisdom, right?
Mhm.
Kat says, amen. I agree with Law. Hey, Kat.
Hey, Kat.
So before we close, so Ty was like, I feel like women, we are always taught to cover up so men won't look at us, but do we teach men not to look?
Go ahead, Love. You got that, man.
Tyra already know how I feel about that. I think that there are many dysfunctions within the Black church, and how they enforce certain things but choose to ignore other things. That's a systemic issue that I don't think we will ever have time to address. But I know for me personally, I will never look at a woman any kind of way, or like lustfully in any kind of way, because of what she has on at church. Like, we're not here for that. It's not, it's not that kind of thing. So for me, I don't care what you come in. You came, get what you need, and we gonna all mind our business and we gonna go home.
Mhm.
That's it. That's all it should be. Like, I'm really
Right.
cut and dry to this stuff. Like, As long as you know, if you come to, now I think it's different if you come to church every Sunday and you want to run up to the front and jump around and all that, and you ain't got no clothes on. But you know, if this is your first time or you don't come often and that's what you have on, I'm not going to bother you. Nobody should bother you unless it's to pray with you or to, again, give you resources to help you. That's it. Like, that's not what church is about. That's not what Christ is about. So, yeah, that is an issue, Tyra, but I don't even know where to start with that. Like,
honestly, some men,
some men are lustful. They just got lust.
Lustful and pedophile-ish in general. So even if they cover up, they're still gonna hop in your DMs, and because that's just the way they are. You know, they just need to live. You know what I'm saying? But men are always lookers. They're always gonna look. But it's not the looking that's the problem. But it's just the lustful intent that's the problem. It's entertaining the thoughts that are the problem as well. So you know, it's I believe it's half and half. But a woman shouldn't have to change her whole dress code over one man that can't control his eyes. I do personally believe that.
That's good. Okay. Hey, Vladimir. So Vladimir says, because he asked the question, are we talking about personal and using the Bible perspective or personal? And then it's important to present both sides. Say what y'all think. The Yahweh references to either support it or correct what y'all say. So I don't know if you just tuned in, but we were. So once this live goes off, then you can rewatch it. And then if you have any questions, then just let us know and we'll address it on the next live. But we did, Vladimir. You probably missed it. So yeah, so we went over a little hours and 6 minutes passed. So these are hour long. So I hope that thank you guys for tuning in. So we're definitely gonna pray out, and then after the prayer, be sure to stay tuned in. I have a video that I want to share with you all after. But if there's no other questions, we are going to end this live. So thank you guys so much. So we started off season 2 talking about modesty. Definitely appreciated y'all's perspective. It can be a lot. Like, we can go different avenues when it comes to modesty, but I like the fact that initially you guys brought the definitions that you did, and we were able to cover that when it came to like humbleness, heart posture, and things of that nature. So is there anything that y'all want to anything y'all got on your heart right y'all need to say, or y'all good?
Don't let these people scare y'all into not living. You know, like, don't let people put you in fear, manipulate, and control you. You are an adult. Most people on here, you have the right to discern. You have the right to ask God about it. And that's what you go by, not ever by what someone just tells you.
Yeah. And God wants your heart. God wants your willingness. God wants your obedience. So like Lafayette said, like, listen to God, listen to what his will is, follow that discernment. You don't necessarily have to fall into the trap of what some people try to make you into. So yeah.
And like I said, if you're going to the beach,
with your 2-piece,
do what you gotta do. And then if you're going to the beach, you ain't gotta wear that old T-shirt or that whatever. You ain't gotta wear no sweatpants, whatever like that. Go ahead and be free, man of God. You know.
You know, that's a question. That's a question I want to ask God for sure. I'm like, God, so let me know about this beach thing, because the way everybody kept talking about it, like we had to go in some pants and some shirt. I was just like, well, that's why my whole life, like, I just avoided going to the beach because I just didn't want to like go through that headache. I was like, okay, whatever. I just didn't go. That's probably why I don't like the beach now, because I never cared for it.
That's why you ain't getting the water.
Yeah. It was just too complicated, just the process of figuring out what to wear and stuff and what not to show. I'm just like, you know what? And so whenever people, like, when they introduced going to, I just didn't care for it because I'm like, it's too much thought, and I just didn't. I don't want to be wrong, and I'm just like, never mind. That's funny. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for tuning in. So let's go ahead and pray out, and then y'all stay tuned for a short video. All right. You want me to pray, or somebody wants to pray? I got it. All right. Okay. All right. So thank you guys so much for allowing us to just come back together again for another season of Reflections, of Conversations with Friends, where we literally just have conversations with you at the center, God. We just ask, God, that with this conversation, it was able to edify the body, God, that people that were listening, even ourselves, were able to gain another perspective, gain insight, gain wisdom about this topic of modesty, God. And we just pray, Lord God, for those who were listening, God, that the seeds that needed to be planted, they were planted on good ground, and that it would just stir up conviction, it'll stir up a conversation, even in them, that they will start consulting you about things when it concerns to modesty, humbleness, and their heart posture, God. We just thank you so much. And God, we just pray, Lord God, that again, that you get the glory out of this conversation. We love you so much. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
All right, y'all. Thank you again, and y'all stay tuned for this video.
Look what I got in the mail today. This is from Sam with BeingONE podcast. Kingdom citizen, I don't do church. I am the church. It's a message. It's a message. I can't wait to wear it.
That's what I'll be wearing. My new sweatshirt. Love it, love it. Kingdom citizens. I can seriously hear Samantha's voice saying this. I love it.
All right, y'all. So you guys, as you can tell, there are Kingdom Citizens tees available to be purchased. I will drop the link on this video so you guys can be sure to purchase a shirt and rock your Kingdom Citizens tee. That I don't do church, I am the church. Okay. And just thank you again for joining on this live and tuning in for this conversation. And we'll see you guys again. So every first and third Saturday, you can catch us right here at 6 p.m. Thank you so much and love you so much. Go and be blessed.